Okay, hey everyone. Today we're gonna do Photoshop today. So I have a list of things that are going to be important for us to learn. For the most part, it's gonna go in order, but I may jump around here and there. Um, right here, I write out some quick commands. These are not things I'll be able to show you since they're on the computer, like on the keyboard. But whenever I use it, I will tell you that I'm using it so you can see what it's doing. So starting off, we have opening Photoshop. So my Photoshop is open. Everybody else's should also be open. When we open our Photoshop, it'll probably say my name because you're logged into mine. That's fine. We are going to go to New File and click it. When you do that, you are going to see all of these. These are just to show you different sizes. What we are going to do is we're going to make our own size. Um, the first thing I need you to do when you're going to make your own size is go over to this right section over here where it says pixels. We're going to change that to inches. And then for width and height, we are going to make our artwork 8 by 8. Now this is not the final work. I'm just going to show you how to use some different tools. So don't feel tied to this one right now. Once you did both of that, everything else is good. Just press create. And now we are ready to start. So let's go back to our list. We've opened it up and we have made our file. And now we are going into selecting images. So there are two ways you can pick your images. One obvious one is going to be Google. We will most likely be using mostly Google. The other option is Adobe Stock Images. Some of you may or may not be logged into it. If you do want to use Adobe Stock, that's fine. They'll have maybe some different images from Google, but Google images are going to be fine. Next one is picking our images. So for our images, I'm going to go with
So for snail, we go to my images. When we're picking images, it's really important that we
pick large images. The reason being, if we pick small images, it is going to be really pixelated, and I'll show you what that looks like. So once you're in Google Images, you're going to go to Tools on the right here, right there. Go to Size. You're going to pick Large. But let me show you. Sorry, those are my birds. Icon. Let's go Icon because that's the really small images. Let's go with, say, this image. I'm going to copy image. So I right clicked and then I'm going to click copy image. I'm going to go to Photoshop. I'm going to left click my white screen, my whiteboard. And now this is where I'm going to do my keyboard Control V to paste the image. And now you can see it on there. Now when you are going to make an image larger, you have to press the layer. Make sure to click the layer. You'll know if you click the layer because it's highlighted where you see my mouse. If I were to click this background layer, now that one's not highlighted. And so I'm actually on my background, even though it doesn't look like anything. So to make sure we're talking and using the right layer to transform, we're going to click it until it's highlighted. Now on our keyboard, we're going to do Control T. And you should see these little dots pop up, and that will make it large, make it small. You can rotate it, stuff like that. So I'm going to make it really large. I'm going to press Enter. And as you see, it's still pixelated because it was a small image. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to click the layer, backspace, get rid of it. And I'm going to go back to my tools and I'm going to grab a large image this time. Let's go with this snail, looking good. I'm going to right click, copy image, back to Photoshop, left click my screen, Control V my image. And as you see, it's a very large image. So now once I've pasted it, I'm going to Control T and I'm going to go to this edge and make it much smaller. So I'm dragging it down the corner, using my mouse to pull the image back onto the screen so I can see it, getting it smaller again. And here, if you actually wanted to go to the image rather than trying to pull it up, there's these bars down here to go up and down. But also, if we look at our controls, we have Control plus, Control minus, Control 0. So let me show you what that would look like. If I wanted to zoom in, I press Control, the plus sign on my computer, and I zoom in. If I want to go back to normal, just normal, not zoom out, but completely normal, I do Control 0 and it gets me back to normal. If I want to go really far out, Control minus, and here you can also press Control 0 to get back to normal, which is what I just did. Okay. Back to transforming my image. I'm going to make it smaller so that we can see it. And once I'm all done transforming it, I'm going to press Enter. And right now I'm going to press Control 0 so I zoom in more. Let's see. So now we have our image. And let's see, we got it on there. Let me show you how to transform. So transform is that Control T. You'll know you did it correctly when you Control T, and then your little dots come up. On my computer, it doesn't have one of the features your computer probably has. I think it's about where my mouse is moving is something where there's a checkbox. And if you do the checkbox, you don't have to do Control T anymore. If you want to do that and it's on your computer, you can do that. But it is not on my computer. When you do Control P, other than moving it, making it big or rotating it, other things you can do is you can flip the image. So if you right click on your layer, and you see down here it says flip vertical, flip horizontal, or rotate in 90 to 180 degree, you can do that. So I flip it the other way, now it looks like that. Now I don't want it to face that way. So what I'm going to do to go back to what it looked like, I'm going to Control V. And because the last thing I did before that was move it, it only goes back one time. So Control V, if you see here, is to go back, but it only goes back one time. So because I moved it, it only moved back one time. But if I do Control V this time, it'll flip it. Now, if I were to move it up here and do Control V, it's going to go back right there because it only goes back one space. Okay, we did all of those. Learn how to flip it. Now let's learn how we're going to actually only get the snail. We don't want the background. We just want the snail. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure our layer is clicked. Oh, wait, actually, before we do that, let's not skip. Let's start with our layers level here. So let's learn how to name a layer. So naming layers is really useful when you have a lot of layers. Right now, it's not too much. We just have one layer in our background, and our background never changes. If we want to name our layer, we're going to see where it's highlighted here. Click on the word layer 1. You might have to double click. And I'm going to name it snail so that if I get really stuck with everything, and there's a lot of images, I know which one's the snail. Then you press enter and it's good. The layers work. So I'll show you how the layers work when I get another image. Hiding the layers. When you have a lot of layers, you're like, okay, this one's really distracting me. If you see these eyeballs hide the image. The image is still there. It's still there, even though I can't see it. It's just because it's hidden. And you know it's hidden because the eyeball's not there. So once the eyeball's there, you can see the image again. And then merging layers. Okay, we need one more image before we can do both the merging and seeing how they work together. So let's skip down to subject selection. So subject selection is a really quick way to get just the snail. So a subject, I believe we talked about it in class, but if not, subject is just whatever's the focus of the artwork. So in the Mona Lisa is the subject. Even though she has a background around her and everything, she is the center of the artwork. So here, our snail is the center. You can tell because everything else is blurry. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our layer is clicked. The reason I say layer instead of image is if your image is really small, so Control T, really small, sometimes it's really hard to click on your image. And it's easier to do now because you can see all the colors, but sometimes when it's just words, it can get really hard. So I'm going to Control V to get it back to normal in one quick go. Okay, so my layer is highlighted. Now, you don't want to be in transform during this. You don't want to do Control T. If you do this, you can't use your select tool. You can't be in the transform. So if you are in transform, just press enter and you'll get out of it. You only want your layer highlighted. You're going to go to select and you're going to go down to subject. And when it does that, it should your little dashes, they're called ants, around the subject. Yep. And what you're going to do to make sure it stays like that is you're going to go follow my mouse. It's going to go over here on top of this little icon. See it when you lay there and you don't click it, it says layer mask. You're going to press that. And now your background is gone. Now, even though it's gone, it looks gone, it's not actually gone. You can tell because on the left, you see how my snail is black and white on the right, and on the left, you still see that green. That's how I know that it's still there even if I can't see it. So to make sure it goes away completely, what we have to do is apply the layer. How we apply the layer is where you see my mouse. There's a little chain right there. Hover above it. You'll know if you're hovering correctly because those words will pop up. And you are going to right click on it. And you're going to press apply layer. And now it is just a snail. You can also tell the difference. Let me control V to go back to my own. You tell the difference. So let me click my layer. Oh, I moved it. One more time. There we go. Now we're back to where I wanted. If I click on this layer and I control T, I can see how all the dots are really far away. But if I go to apply the layer, right click, something I did wrong right now is I accidentally left clicked. So when you left click, it just doesn't show that chain anymore. That doesn't mean you applied it. It just means you can't see the chain. So just left click again for the chain to pop up, right click, apply layer. And now if we click on the layer, control P, you see the dots are closer to snail. That's how you know you've done it correctly. Now let's add in one more layer. So I'm going to press enter to get rid of the transform. And I'm going to give them a little top hat. Let's go. I have my top hat ready here. I'm going to right click, copy image, go back to Photoshop, click on the background. I am going to control V to paste my image, and that's a big image. So what I'm going to do so I can see all of it is control minus. Now I can see all of it. Now clicking on the layer, remember, this would be an example of where if I wanted to work on the snail, I couldn't because this layer is in front of it. If I moved it, now I can get to the snail, but because it's on top, it's harder. So control T, make sure you have the layer selected, and I'm going to make it really small and scooch it over onto the page. And I'm going to control 0 so I can get back to the right size. I'm going to enter to get rid of my transform. And I'm sure you can notice, but the snail is behind my hat. I'm going to give you a second to maybe think, why would my snail be behind my hat? How do I get my hat behind the snail? Okay, so if you look over here, you can see your layers on the right where my mouse is. We have layer 1 and we have snail. So let's change the word layer 1 to top hat so I know what it is, just in case. And I'm going to enter. Now, if you see the top hat is on top of the snail, if I want my snail to actually be the foreground, the one closest to me, I'm going to click and drag. So left click, drag above my top hat. And now my snail is on top of my hat. Now I actually want my top hat to be on my snail. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to control V. Control V one more time. As you see, it only moved it a little bit because that's what I did before that. Control V one more time. And now we're back to what it was. So what I want to do is I'm going to do my selection tool. So make sure my layer is highlighted. Go to select, subject, and it should get rid of that whiteness and just keep the top hat. Okay, and when I want to apply it, I'm going to press this right here. And to make sure it really applies, I'm going to right click the chain, apply layer. And now I don't have all that white layer around it, as you see. Now let's put it on him. So let's control T. Let me bring it tiny and put it on his little head. And you know what? I'll rotate it a little bit. And now it's snail with the top hat. Now, if I wanted it to stay like this, I wanted it to be the top hat and the snail, I have to merge the layers because right now, if I move the snail, it moves the top hat. But let me control V, get back to normal. Now, let's say I want to keep them together so that every time I move it, it moves together. What you're going to do is, as you see right here, my snail is highlighted. In order to merge two layers together, we are going to need to highlight multiple layers. How we're going to do that is, as long as one layer is highlighted, we can press Control on our keyboard, and we can click the other image that we're wanting to combine, which is my top hat. So I will left click that, and now I can lift my finger off the Control key, and I will right click either one, which, as long as you right click one of the highlighted images or highlighted layers, that's good. So let me right click my top hat. And if you scooch down a little bit, you see merge layers. I'm going to press that. It also says Control E. So you can do either Control E to merge layers, or you can do the right click and merge layers. And I'll do that. And now you see it is one. So if I go to move the snail, they move together. I believe that's everything there I want to show you. And then the last one I will show you is just if you find that it's not, it's not selecting the subject like you would like, there is a way to make it closer. So I am going to use an image of myself. Let me find that image of myself, and I'm going to show you another way to select an image and to crop it how you would like. So I took some images of myself for my teacher sample. I have a few different ones. Let's go ahead and do this goofy one. Let me click on it, copy the image, and I'm going to go ahead and delete my snail just so I can show you now. And I'm going to Control V my image onto there. It's a very big image, so Control minus, and then I'm going to Control T and make it much smaller and put it on there. Control 0 to get back to normal. And let's say once I'm here, I do select. Oh, can you guess why the select is not working? I have my transform on. So let's press enter to get out of my transform. Have my layer highlighted, select, and let's see what it does when it says select subject, because I'm in the subject, but let's see how good of a job it does. Okay, yeah, that does a really good job. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply it. I like that. But let's say that I wanted less of my arms. And what we're gonna do is you can, again, click the layer. You don't have to apply it yet if you're still gonna do some more to it. But I have my layer, and we're gonna go to select, but instead of subject, we're gonna go to select and mask. And there are two different tools that you are going to see inside of here that you should feel if you want to try, you can try, which is the quick selection tool. This is useful in choosing very big things. So if I want to get rid of my tongue, let's say right now, you see that circle? That is my brush. That is too big to get rid of my tongue. That would get rid of a lot more. So we go to size up here, and let's just guesstimate. Let's see 30 is a little too big still. So let's go 14. Let's just click my tongue. And as you see, it got rid of the whole tongue, even though I just clicked it. Let's go ahead and click my hair. Ooh, it gets rid of a whole bunch. Can I get rid of my whole eye? Yeah, it gets rid of a whole lot. And if you have a bigger size, it would get rid of a lot more too. See, it got rid of a lot quickly. So it's a quick selection tool. I'm going to Control V until it's moved to, there we go. And the other option, you can do that for both. So I did it for removing, but you can also do it for adding. So if I were to remove my whole face, and I was like, you know what, never mind, I do want my face, you can go in with the plus sign, or you can even see I'm adding the background back in. But I don't want my background, so let's go minus, and let's do that quick selection tool around my room. And you see it's messing up my hair a little bit now, which is why using the select subject was good, because it kept my hair in. But let's say I want my hair back, and if I do my quick selection tool, maybe it adds too much of the background back in. So let's go to this other tool. It's the brush tool. This brush tool is where you're able to just freely add things back in. You can see, I just do a random light and it works. Or if I want to remove something, you can do it however I like. If you do use this tool, do not do it in big 1, 2, 3 goes. do it in really small. I don't know if you can hear it click. I'll say it every time it clicks. So click, 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 click. The reason you do it like that instead of one big one is if you mess up, you're like, oh no, I actually didn't want, or I did want to keep this part, but I've already let go. Once you do Control V, it brings it all back. Whereas if you did a little bit at a time, as you see here, click, 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 it only brings back a little bit at a time. But if I do Control V again, yep, it has all that. So make sure to do really tiny clicks at a time or however you want to use it. And once you say, you know what, this is just perfect. This is exactly what I keep. Everything that is not in red means it's going to show up once you apply the layer. I'm going to say, you know what, I love it. I'm ready to apply it. I'm going to go over to my right side. You can see this little scroll bar. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and it says output 2. You want it to say layer mask. We're going to say okay. So you see, it kept everything. All the parts that were not red, even got rid of this little area that had some red on it. Now, if you are satisfied with this, go ahead and do the right click on the chain and apply the layer mask. And now it is officially all good. Is there anything else I missed? I think that's everything. You guys can rewatch this video as much as you want or as little as you want. Me and Mr. Evans will be walking around the whole time, helping you throughout. If there's anything I didn't answer in the video, just ask it aloud. I'm sure other people have questions. I do not expect this to be easy for you guys. So don't get too frustrated or think that you're not doing a good job. Photoshop's really hard, even really hard for me as the teacher, and I'm still learning new things. So don't be intimidated, take your time. Don't do too much detail in your project just because we're going to spend really only today, and the next class is going to be just finishing anything we didn't finish. So if you didn't finish your tunnel book, next class is going to be your last day because we do our exhibit at 11 or 11:30. So you're only going to have an hour next class to work on any project. So don't do too much detail on this. Just do a little bit and enough that you're happy with it. And have fun.